How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another stream. Today should be fun because today is a bit more chill than the past few live streams. Of course, I told you guys that on Sundays we would have after hours and more of like a hangout. So what I've done is I've actually turned the Sunday sessions into like a Q&A because it makes sense. If we're going to do a hangout, we might as well make it useful and do something, resourceful. So that's why I thought it would be great to do Q&As on Sundays. I do have a few updates for you guys actually. First of all, like I've started to say, turn on your post notifications so you get notified when I'm streaming, because it seems like a lot of people have issues with being notified. So that's one issue. Something else I want to show you is I actually work on a stream schedule behind the scenes, but a lot of you might not know what it is. So I'm just going to put that on the screen now so people are actually aware that I have some form of a schedule. I don't always follow it, but I kind of do. And I'll tell you exactly what I mean when I share it with you guys. I'll show you guys what I mean. But anyway, how is everyone doing? Hope everyone is doing good. Michael says just in time. Yes, sir. Just in time. Where do you ask questions? In the chat or dono? I mean, you can donate if you want to. I'm not one of those streamers that's like donate for forcing people to spend money. I'm going to answer your questions. Obviously, if you donate, it just means that it's 100% likely I'm going to answer your question. But you don't need to donate. Like, I'm going to look through all the questions. I might miss a few, but yeah, you don't need to make a donation. Just ask a question in the chat and hopefully I see it and I answer it. But yeah, I just remembered I wanted to show you guys my schedule. Okay, so this is from my Twitch page. The only reason why I'm showing you guys this is because for some reason, like, YouTube doesn't have this. Like, you can't set a stream schedule on YouTube. So I kind of just did it on Twitch. But essentially, how my schedule normally runs when it comes to, all this sort of stuff is I don't stream on Mondays. On Tuesdays, I have a runway analysis stream. So some sort of runway show I'm going to be reviewing. On Wednesdays, it's a what's trending in fashion, which a lot of people have liked on the stream. So we're going to continue that. On Thursday, we have runway analysis. On Friday, we have what's trending in fashion, same as Saturday. And then Sunday, of course, we have answering your fashion questions, which is like the hangabout kind of long stream where we just kind of talk about anything. Now, of course, I don't follow this to the letter, but this is more, use it as a guide. So if you want to know what time I stream, most times it's going to be 9:30 UK time, apart from Sunday, which is 1 hour later, which is 10:30 UK time. So that's GMT right now. So yeah, if it's a Wednesday, if you have me on Twitch, you can just go to my Twitch page and be like, oh, okay, on Wednesday we have a what's trending in fashion at 9:30. So it's easier to follow. I've done this because, once again, like I said, people struggle with getting their notifications and people don't know what time I stream. People are like, oh my God, I always miss the stream. So hopefully this makes it a lot easier for people to follow. That's my hope. Al says, hell yeah, you're a Twitch streamer now. Do you know what's funny? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm kind of new to Twitch, but I don't think there's any fashion Twitch streamer right now. So I'm trying to be one of the first, since I already stream on YouTube all the time. So now I stream to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. You might as well. Everyone's talking about the Tyler, the Creator album. Yeah, of course I'm going to tune into that. Of course, guys, of course. Someone is asking me if this is a new mic. No, it's not. This is the same mic I always use. The reason why I guess it looks different is normally I have this, like the wind guard thingy, the foam. But I just realized that the quality is better without it on. The only reason why you have this on is if you're filming outside and there's wind. So I don't know why I always left it on. Because it is like a really high quality mic. It's like a broadcast studio mic. So pretty decent. Everyone's talking about the the Tyler album. Bell says, "Oh well, I didn't realize you do all streams. Would you receive more money if I become a member / donated here, or did the same on Twitch?" So, to be honest, I don't mind for now because my Twitch isn't monetized. So for my Twitch to be monetized, I have to meet certain criteria. I think one of the first things is I need 50 followers on Twitch, which I don't have right now. I think I have, last time I checked, I have 41 followers on Twitch. So when that gets to 50, then of course I think there's a difference between being a Twitch partner and like being monetized on Twitch. So I think the first stage is like being a Twitch affiliate, which is where you can be monetized. And then a Twitch partner is like where you're, properly on Twitch. So it depends. We'll get there one day. It's up to me to keep streaming and we'll reach there at some point. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't really mind where you want to watch. I'm not really about do this for me because I'm trying to make maximum money. It's like, what is the most convenient for you? If it's more convenient for you to watch it on Twitch, then do that. If it's YouTube, do that. It's all up to you guys. If you're going to make donations though, the best place to make donations is obviously via PayPal, because then half of your money doesn't go to YouTube. But once again, that's up to you. I'm not trying to make anything inconvenient for someone. So it really is down to what's most convenient for you. Twitch hot tub stream. This is definitely never happening. I'm a fashion streamer. I'm not an IRL streamer where it's just like, guys, follow me through London. Oh, thank you so much, guys, for following. For all the people, helping me reach the lovely 50 followers on Twitch. I appreciate it. Guys. But anyway, let me bring that off the screen. I just did that so you guys know what the schedule is like. Ludovic review in the hot tub. Oh my god. You guys are hilarious. Your hot tub stream would get hundreds of thousands of viewers. At that point, it's basically OnlyFans, isn't it? I might as well just start an OnlyFans if I'm going to make content like that. Are you allowed to make content like that on Twitch? I feel like Twitch is even more strict than YouTube. Like on YouTube, you can do like nudity, because obviously sometimes we're watching a runway show and there's some nudity on the screen and I don't even get demonetized. Whereas on Twitch, they might even like just terminate your account or something. But like, yeah. So I think it depends. Depends on the platform. Have to be careful with Twitch. Someone said some people get away with it, especially if they are higher up. Yeah, so there we go. I'm not big on Twitch at all, so they would terminate my channel with no thought, because I'm quite irrelevant on that platform. So yeah. Also, someone was saying that I need to so actually, let me ask you guys this question, just out of curiosity. So if I did the proper streamer thing and I put the chat on the screen in real time, because I can do that, would you guys like that? Because the problem with doing that is when I clip the streams, because I want the experience of, clipping the streams to come across like it's an actual video, even though it isn't. It's a stream clip. So I want it to seem and kind of feel like a video. But if I put the chat on the screen, that's a bit too streamy for me. That's not really my style. I like everything to be a bit more clean, if you know what I mean. And if you want, to go through the comments, then you just have to watch the live streams back and you get the comments real time that way. Okay, everyone's saying no. So there we go. Everyone's on the same page. Peachy says gamers do it and I find it's usually fine. I guess it's a different kind of content though, because I feel like the fashion audience isn't used to seeing just a a random chat just scrolling on the screen like constantly. I don't know if it's a good idea for right now. We be chatting. I know, right? Exactly. Just the chat, just scrolling. Yeah, someone said, nah, not for this content. Okay, that's fair enough. That's kind of what I would prefer anyway, so that works for me. Okay, first fashion question. Could Phoebe Philo do menswear? Oh, yeah, of course she could. I don't think that. Because kind of it's weird, but you know, women's wear is societally not seen as unisex, but menswear is. So most times, if you're a women's wear designer, the transition to menswear is easier than if you're a menswear designer trying to transition into women's wear. That's always been my personal opinion. YouTube chat for most runway shows is just K-pop simps. I don't get any of the K-pop people in my chats, obviously because I don't like just film the K-pop stars and stuff. We actually talk about the clothes, but yeah, that is true. Like I'll watch like a Celine live stream when I'm watching it and I can just see the chat and everyone's like, oh my God, Lisa, oh my God. I prefer this because it feels special, just one person popping up on screen. That's a good point actually, because it kind of individualizes everyone's comments, right? Rather than me just kind of glancing at the screen and then seeing what's there and moving on. So good point, guys. Good point. I mean, you guys decide. Opinion on Golden Goose and why so many people are drawn to it. Now, first of all, my first question is Golden Goose having a resurgence? Because I don't see too many people wearing Golden Goose, at least not these days. When I was younger, you know, around the time when it was the same time when Saint Laurent Wyatt boots were really popular. That was when loads of people used to wear Golden Goose. I don't really see it as much. And to be honest, I don't really get the appeal of Golden Goose. They're just kind of just like distressed trainers, distressed footwear. I don't get it really. I've seen a lot of people recently wearing like the cowboy boots, but I don't really understand the appeal of it. Not to say that it isn't valid, I just don't understand it. I didn't even know that Golden Goose was still a thing, like that people are really wearing. I don't actually see them a lot. I just remember them from that time, like 2010s is when a lot of people used to wear it. The trusty Golden Gooses, guys. Trusty. Peachy says, I have no clue what Golden Goose is. Yeah, it's these like sneakers. It's a footwear company essentially. They make these distressed kind of worn out looking sneakers. However, they do also make other things. Let me see if they show like some of their boots. Like, okay, like here, for example, they make these like cowboy looking boots and all this other stuff. But they are mainly known for the worn out looking sneakers that Gucci kind of copied based off the success of the Golden Gooses. But yeah, I don't really see them anymore. I barely see them. And Fari says, I saw someone wearing Vetements socks today. 2010's resurgence. Oh my God. We're going back, guys. We're going back. The Vetements oversized hoodies, the DHL t-shirts, the Polizei caps. That was a time, to be fair. Isn't Phoebe's whole thing like making clothes made for how women want to feel? Would that translate to men's as much? The thing about Phoebe Philo's clothing aesthetically is that it can work for men, even if she just did the exact same clothing but increased the sizes. It could be menswear. So even though her intention is, you know, for women and how women feel in her clothes, if she just was like, okay, I'm just going to make the sizes bigger, that would be enough for men to start buying the clothing, to be honest. Because she makes shirts with a really nice shape or a trench coat. Men can wear that too. It's not like she's going to put, I don't know, a lot of her dresses into the menswear line. It's probably going to be the coats, the jackets, the shirts, that kind of stuff. David said, yeah, Germany is full golden goose. So in Germany, it's still a big thing. That's interesting. That is so, so interesting. I'm going to Berlin next year, so I'm going to be on the lookout for that. I'm definitely going to be on the lookout. Let's see. Vox Clan says, is there anything wrong with dressing as your favorite fashion designer? People argue that dressing up runway looks is uninspiring and lacks style. To be honest, Vox Clan, wear whatever you want and don't care about what anyone else says. Everyone has their own preference in terms of style, but style is an individual thing. So if you personally want to dress like your favorite designer, then do that. Don't care about what is original or uninspiring to other people, because that kind of stuff changes with the wind, the same way trends change with the wind. So just wear whatever you like. It's completely and utterly okay to dress like your favorite fashion designer or to dress as your favorite fashion designer. Because I'm guessing in this case, you're talking about Halloween. Why not? People dress up as anything. Why can't you dress up as, I don't know, Rick Owens or whoever you want to dress up as? I don't know who your favorite designer is. There's nothing wrong with that. Golden Goose is for people who want to wear sneakers but don't want to be a part of the working class sneaker community. It's like a luxury whitewash sneaker community. That's low-key true though. They kind of want to seem down to earth, but at the same time, you can tell that they're Golden Goose because of the stars. So it's like, well, they're not really low key, are they? We know that your sneakers are really expensive. Like, look, even these sneakers on the screen, these are £450, so not cheap. Maximus says, did you ever hear or read about the Cut article and its analysis of Kirby Jean Raymond and Paya Moss? Are you talking about the old one? I remember an expose kind of like article coming out in the Cut, but that was a while ago. That was a really long time ago. Are you talking about that one, or is there a new one that I missed? Let's see. Why do African brands / designers have to be influenced by their heritage and culture, but Western brands / designers can just design? It's like they are trying to put African designers in a box. So I think it depends. I think some African brands are inspired by what's going on around them and their own heritage, and they use their cultural dress. They infuse that into their brand. But not every African brand is like that, to be fair. There are as many brands that just design as there are the cultural ones. I guess people's mind frame. They just assume African brands, African print. Like most African brands don't even look like that. Like even if they are inspired, like one of my favorite brands, let me put it on the screen. I'll show you guys a few actually. I'll show you guys some Nigerian brands that I really love, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Like not every single brand from these places is like African print and stuff. Okay, so this first brand is Lagos-based Program. I talk about this brand a lot. They featured in the first issue of my magazine. One of the major concepts of this brand is looking at Yoruba culture, which is a tribe in Nigeria, and kind of the heritage of the Yoruba culture and the practices of the culture, and infusing these ideas into clothing. So there are aspects of it that are very Nigerian, like the fact that they use indigo dyes, which is a very, West African technique that people use. They also have a lot of indigo dyeing in places like South Africa, all that sort of stuff. That is very African, but the silhouettes aren't. They're kind of African inspired, but when you look at them, you don't think Africa. You know what I mean? And most brands are like this. Most brands are not, just out here doing African print. So even though the silhouette, the concept is very much informed by Nigerian culture and fashion. There are many amazing designers that have a way of infusing that into clothing that, you know, can be worn by anyone and worn anywhere, and people don't just look at it and think Africa as a first thing. Like, look at some of these clothes, for example. So this is a brand that I really love. Another brand that I'm a big fan of is Tokyo James. Tokyo James is another designer that, of course, a lot of the clothing is influenced by Nigeria, and a lot of the references are to Nigerian culture. For example, one of the hero pieces of Tokyo James is using beads. These are the pieces that everyone loves. Now, these are inspired by, there's a tribe in Nigeria called the Edo tribe, and their cultural dress, they normally have like certain beads. You know what? Let me put it on the screen since we're doing a Q&A kind of educational thing. Let me just show you guys what this stuff looks like. So this is what it normally looks like, right? So these are the kind of beads that they use. They kind of look like this, really extravagant. I love the way that some of the designs are. So what Tokyo James has done is he's taken this idea and kind of made it more commercial, more palatable to, you know, a wider audience. So he will do like a dress and then the beading is at the front of the dress. Or there was a piece of denim that Tokyo James did that went crazy online. I'm trying to see if you can see it anywhere here. It should be somewhere around here. I know it was like a very recent collection where it's kind of like beaded denim. But that was something that was really big, even like a dress like this with the two beads. You can see the necklace also. So I say all of this to say that there are ways to, you know, infuse your African, like, okay, even in these shorts, for example, you have the beading once again. So there are ways to incorporate African heritage and style without things looking so obviously and stereotypically African. So I think it comes down to the fashion that you're looking at and how you view fashion. I think there are as many brands that do the cultural thing as there are brands that do we're going to infuse our heritage into the clothing, but also have it in a seamless way where you don't even notice type of thing. Yeshua says, as a dude, I would love to wear Phoebe Philo. John Galliano's contract with the House of Maison Margiela is about to end. Where do you think he will go next? So we've kind of talked about this in previous streams. I personally think that he's probably going to end up either at his own eponymous label. They're going to restart it and he's going to design at his eponymous label, or there are so many other brands. There was a point in time people said Dior, then people started to say Fendi. So at this point, I don't think we really know, but I think the best case scenario is he goes to his own eponymous label, personally. So yeah. Also, thank you very much to Himi Dennis, who, you know, sent a donation via PayPal. I really appreciate it. Lots of love, lots of love. Francisco saying, if you want to dress like Susie Menkes for Halloween, there's nothing wrong with that, babes. Can you imagine dressing up like Susie Menkes for Halloween? That's funny. Are there any Japanese brands you're currently interested in or looking to read up on more? The Japanese brands that I look at most of the time these days is Noir, Kane and Amiya, and Anrilige. Those are the two Japanese brands that really, really interest me. So yeah, I'd say those brands. Yeah, Tolu Coco is amazing, by the way. Let me put Tolu Coco's Instagram on the screen. Her last show, I think it was at London Fashion Week, right? If I'm not mistaken. It was really, really good. Really good. I would love to start talking about more different brands starting, you know, next runway season. But yeah, this is Tolu Coco's most recent collection, which I was a big fan of. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, you still get the African sort of maximalism going on there, but it's not so obviously this is a Nigerian designer inspired by Nigeria. Do you know what I mean? So I think it just depends. Like I was saying earlier, it really just depends where you look. It honestly just depends. How do you think sneaker culture will be like in 2025? Since, in my opinion, it's definitely declined. Yeah, I think sneaker culture is definitely on a downward spiral. I honestly think it's low-key a good thing, because I think something I've always been a fan of is wear whatever shoes you want to wear. Don't wear shoes just because it's hyped. Wear what you personally like. And I think sneaker culture, a lot of it came with hype. Of course, there was a genuine sneaker culture at one point, but I think a lot of it got hijacked by hype beasts and stuff. And I think that whole genre of fashion is dying, which I think is low-key a good thing. We're going to go back to people just wearing whatever shoes they want to wear, whatever shoes they find comfortable, whatever shoes they like visually, and that's how we're going to move forward. Simon is taking us on a random segue. Let's see. Random segue, but is taking Pharrell's Louis Vuitton seriously a lost cause? Is it wrong to expect anything interesting? Just seems like a failed experiment. I don't agree. I think that I don't see Pharrell as like a ultra revolutionary designer, so I don't judge him in that sense. I think he makes very desirable products. In fact, there are a lot of things that he makes at Louis Vuitton that I would actually love to buy if I could afford it. I can't now, but hopefully someday soon. Like those soft touch, crazy, stupid color Speedies. I'm a big fan of those. I just find them really fun. So I like those. You know, some of the clothing is really cool. I just think that he's not... You don't go to Pharrell for him to revolutionize designs. That's not Pharrell. Pharrell's not going to do that. So I think it just depends how you see it. But I think it's doing well. It's really successful. I see a lot of people wearing Pharrell's Louis Vuitton. So I think if anything, it's far from a failed experiment. Maybe it isn't critically acclaimed. A lot of critics don't like it. A lot of critics they have a lot to say about his work. And I think a lot of them are well within their reasons because, like I said, you're not going to Pharrell for revolutionary designs. That being said, I think he makes desirable products, which is his job and what he's there to do at the end of the day. Bored Black Sheep says, please could you write the name of the brands in the description when you have the time? I'm the worst at English spelling due to it not being my first language and I never find them. Okay, so I'll start with Lagos Space Program. That was the first brand I mentioned. Put that in the chat. Tokyo James. Obviously, these things are on the screen, but I'll still type them in the chat just in case. Tolu Coca is another brand that was mentioned. We also talked about Kane and Amia, so I'm going to type that in the chat. Kane and Amia. Who else did we mention? Anrilige. Yeah, Anrilige. That was one of my other favorite Japanese brands. So there you go, Bored Black Sheep. Gap just dropped new heavyweight hoodies that look similar to Yeezy Gap hoodies. Yeah, every company does that. Every single company does that. I mean, think of JW Anderson. I'm not sure how many of you guys know this story. Let me see if I can get an article on the screen, actually. Because this would actually illustrate my point perfectly. Let's see. I remember making a video about this at one point. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, I can't really find an article about it. Let me just put it on the screen either way. So anyway, these are this JW Anderson collaboration with Converse. I think they were called the Run Star Hikes. They started making... So they would collaborate with JW Anderson, get his ideas, and then they would just remove his name from the collaboration and make them as a general release. And these sold really well. And JW Anderson was obviously angry. I remember he posted about it on Instagram about, brands and companies taking your ideas and just, chewing you up and spitting you out. And that's how the fashion system is. And so I say this to say that every company does that. The same thing happened to Samuel Ross when he was at A Cold War. He had a collaboration with Converse. Then they just removed the Converse logo and released them as GRs. Every brand does this. Even Nike does it all the time. Not just like, oh, we're going to steal your ideas and then do away with it. They also soft launch things. So if you guys remember, let me put this on the screen actually, the CDG Vapor Max. Let's see, the CDG Vapor Max. So yeah, so when these came out, the Vapor Max had already been designed by Nike, but Nike wanted to soft launch the Vapor Maxes through Comme des Garçons because they have an ongoing partnership. For people that don't know, every single year, Comme des Garçons collaborates with Nike on a few sneaker silhouettes. In every single Comme des Garçons Un Plus collection runway show, there's a Nike collab on the runway every single time. So they kind of used Comme des Garçons to soft launch the Vapor Max as a silhouette because it was new at the time. So when they saw the success, like through the Comme des Garçons collab, then they released the laceless Vapor Maxes with a wider release. So you can't even call that, oh, they're taking CDG's ideas because it was a Nike design. So, every company does that. I think that's just normal practice in fashion. If you sign a contract on a dotted line and they still own the IP and the rights to stuff, then you can't really complain because you signed a contract. You know what I mean? The more black designers there are, the more I realize how much I love a black perspective on luxury. I really like Nicholas Daly. I love Nicholas Daly too. Nicholas Daly is really cool. Really, really cool. Oh yeah, I'm really behind on the comments it seems, but you guys are talking about Tokyo James on the beading. So let me show you something about the beading, by the way, because in Tokyo James's last runway collection, he had a collaboration with Uggs. And there are these Uggs that I really want. They have like his signature beads on them. Let me see if I can find them because they're in his last collection. Yeah, so there you go. They're like Uggs clogs with his signature beading. I really want those so bad. So bad. Like, I really want those. And there were different colorways. There was an all black colorway. Let's see if we can find it. That was really, yeah. So this is the all black colorway. I really want those. And I love when collabs, you can see a designer's design language very much in a collab, because sometimes it just feels like, do you guys remember the Prada Adidas collab? That horrible collab. Sometimes it just feels like a name and that's it. Why is it that the avant-garde people judge those who don't wear it so hard? Especially in Paris, like you ain't someone special. Yeah, I know, it's kind of weird. People even do it to me. It's really weird. I think it's, I genuinely think this. If you're the kind of person that is always telling people how they should dress and stuff, I think there's something genuinely wrong with you. Like there must be something inadequate, maybe because you spent so much money on your clothes. You kind of want to show everyone that you know more about fashion and you're kind of perpetuating that and on other people. But just wear what you want to wear and let other people wear what they want to wear. There is a lot of, judgment, especially people that dress more avant-garde. They're like, oh, no one knows how to dress, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, mate, just wear your yoji in peace. Like, not everyone has to look like they're going to an art fair. Not everyone wants to look like that either. But if you want to look like that, so be it. That's also great. Let me see. I might have to catch up with the comments because I'm quite behind. Oh my God, someone is saying I reached 52 followers on Twitch. Let's go. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Ronnie says Nike has a ton of shoes that looks like Kobe's. That's facts. Yeah, I'm just catching up to the comments now, but yeah, it definitely is the Nike group formula. 100%, 100%. Nike re-releasing so many shocks after brands like Supreme and Martine Rose collabed on them. Exactly. Hey, are there any plans on making a video about quality and luxury while showing a few pieces? Yeah, so because I obviously posted that clip from my live stream where I was just talking about, it was kind of like an intro to what a quality fabric is and why it isn't as easy as just saying, oh, cotton is better than nylon and nylon is better than, another fabric. It's not that straightforward. There's more nuance to the conversation. A lot of people then said, oh, it would be great if you made a video about, quality, what's a quality fabric, what brands are quality. However, I'm like on the fence if I should do it, because if I have a, I don't know, Yoji piece and it's really good quality and I'm like, oh guys, look, this is an example of really good quality, it doesn't really mean much, because like I've said, and I said it in the last live stream, a quality garment can change. So just because Yoji has good quality this season doesn't mean they will next season, unless they use the exact same factory, the same process, they're on top of the fabrics being used, they make sure it's produced the same way. Most brands they don't have that much intent when they design. They're like, okay, that's a cool, decent enough fabric, and then they use it. Most brands don't think about it that deeply. So you just have to be careful, and it's a constant process of discernment. So it's really hard for me to like show guys a piece of clothing and be like, oh, this is really good quality. Because what's going to happen is someone's going to buy that brand and then the seams are going to rip and then they're going to be like, but you said this brand is good quality. And it's like, no, I said this specific piece. But people like to take what you say and then change what you meant. You said Yoji's great quality. Why did my jacket rip? It's your fault. Boaz, this is also really true. If you call yourself avant-garde in 2024, please stay away from me. Yeah, like the kind of weirdness that comes with referring to yourself as avant-garde is insane. That is actually insane. Opinion on the loss of these American fashion brands from their heyday: Donna Karan, Michael Kors, Calvin Klein, Bill Blass, etc. Did licensing play such a significant role in their fall from luxury? Oh, that's a really good question. I think that, yeah, you kind of answered your own question. I think licensing cheapened a lot of these brands, because Donna Karan, like mainline, is a very luxury thing. But I feel like when most people think of Donna Karan, they think of DKNY. And DKNY almost got to the point of being basically fast fashion. The same thing with Michael Kors and all the licensing that they did, to the point where Michael Kors was on discounters everywhere. Calvin Klein is kind of different, because Calvin Klein, even though I still associate Calvin Klein with discounters and things like that, they've kind of been able to reel that back a bit with some stuff that they do with the runway stuff. They've always, for the longest, had runway collections. It was called Calvin Klein Collections for a long time. Then it was, CKNY 205, whatever, by Ras Simmons. And then it's back to being Calvin Klein Collections. We talked about Calvin Klein Collections recently, actually, because they had a new designer go there. So I think Calvin Klein has done a really good job on kind of reeling some of that back. Bill Blass, I just think Bill Blass, most people don't even think about it anymore. It's just kind of disintegrated into the ether. I'm trying to think of any other American brands that we think of, like Halston. No one really talks about Halston anymore. Do we talk about Oscar de la Renta? Like, Oscar de la Renta shows up in red carpets. We see celebrities wearing Oscar de la Renta pieces, but we don't. That's another, I see it as like a really quintessential American brand. People don't really talk about Oscar de la Renta often either. So I think it's more to do with licensing and over commercializing brands, American brands, that has led to their kind of downfall, I guess. But I wouldn't call it downfall, because I'm sure these companies still make loads of money. So it depends what you consider a downfall. Wear your banana sweater in peace, king. Oops, there are too many people saying luxury is how it makes you feel and I can't take it anymore. Yeah, that aspect of things, I don't like it. I do agree with that understanding of luxury in a sense. I do agree that luxury is how it makes you feel, because there is a point of luxury where you are paying for the name and it's diminishing returns. So really, why do you buy this brand? Because you like what the brand represents and you like the history and you like how it makes you feel. That is definitely a big part of it. But for me personally, I always think luxury needs to start from quality, because I just think at certain price points, there's no excuse to not have good quality. Because a lot of these brands, if I made a brand today, I could easily make a brand with good quality, because I just refuse to create a product that isn't good quality. So I'd make sure it is before I ever release that product. So it's not a difficult thing. It's genuinely, these companies just do not give a shit. They really don't care. They just don't care. They just don't. This just is what it is. But yeah, I think luxury should start from quality. I do hate when people just say, yeah, it's just about how it makes you feel. And like, it's not all about quality and all that sort of stuff. Okay, people are talking about the American brands. Yeah, Ralph Lauren too. Although I don't think Ralph Lauren is seen as like a discounter brand, even though you can find it at outlets, especially Purple Label. Purple Label is still seen as like a very... I remember when we were still talking about quiet luxury and having that conversation online, people were still saying, yeah, Purple Label is one of those things that fits seamlessly into the whole quiet luxury aesthetic also. So I think Ralph Lauren is still a brand that has been able to avoid being too over commercialized, even though you can still find it in outlets. But yeah. Let's see. To be honest, I dislike people putting their styles in genres like avant-garde, different cores, etc. Then people will be saying they are versatile when they wear a shirt on one day, then a jumper on another day. Yeah, I don't know why people like labels. Labels are so weird. Like, I can literally wear a Nike Tech Fleece tracksuit on a Monday and a massively wide Yoji trousers with a Random Identities blazer and loafers on a Tuesday, and then wear a very avant-garde Rick Owens piece on a Wednesday. I don't know why people like to box themselves in. Like, just wear what you want. However you're feeling on that day, just dress that way. Don't worry about other people and, oh, you don't look avant-garde enough. Oh, this person can't dress, blah, blah, blah. I find those people really weird. I do get comments like that on my channel all the time. Like, not just about the way I dress, but the way, let's say I'm talking about someone, they talk about the way someone dresses. And it's just like, why is it such an issue? Just let the person wear what they want to wear. Let's see. Bruno says, fair point, but I still think it would be interesting, even if done for Patreons, for instance. Alex Neuf has a cool video showing details on a vintage Chanel couture piece. You know what? That's a good idea, actually. I will write that down, but also make sure that, you know, people don't get pissed off. They don't get their knickers in a twist when I make the video and they're like, but you said, I have to give like 50 disclaimers. That's actually true, because I don't actually show any of my clothing for the most part. So that is something that I could bring to the Patreon and just talk about some of my favorite pieces in my collection and do that. That's actually a really good idea. So yeah, I'll definitely do that. Let's see. Did you see the $1,000 Dior sandal TikTok where the strap popped off and the woman went to the boutique and they said they can't fix it? Then the sales assistant quietly told her to go to a cobbler. Do you think this will be the new norm with the older houses quality? I mean, first of all, Dior footwear quality is absolute in like bin quality. It's literally trash. So that should be stated first of all. Yeah, that's what the future is going to be. Like I always say, a lot of these brands, they cut corners and The quality of their stuff is horrible. The only thing that I guess is quote unquote luxury with a lot of these brands is the price point and nothing else. So yeah, I think that's going to be the future of luxury. I think that we won't be able to differentiate between luxury and fast fashion. We are already at that point anyway. I mean, look at the scandal that came out with Dior using slave labor and stuff like that. So it's not, at some point there are literally some luxury brands that I can't differentiate between fast fashion, to be honest. I think that's definitely the future. I just wish that, customers were more discerning and didn't buy into that shit. So we kind of forced their hand and they are forced into making good quality clothing because no one is accepting the bullshit. But unfortunately, they have way too many customers that don't care. So it doesn't matter. Let's see what Luke is saying. People don't talk about Oscar for the same reason they don't talk about Ellie Saab. Lol, it's mindless red carpet dressing. Oh my god, Luca's come back with the with the hot takes. I definitely wouldn't call it mindless red carpet dressing, Luke. I wouldn't call it that. Let's see. Bring back Joffrey Bean. Facts. I can't cringe and I want to hear someone saying, oh my god, that's funny. Oh my god, I'm really behind. Let me see if I can catch up, guys. Sorry if I miss any comments. I just need to catch up with the comments right now. $57 bag, selling them for $2,500 is a crime, but who am I? Get your money. I also find it, do you know what I find the funniest about this whole luxury fashion conversation that we have every time? What I find so funny about this conversation is how many people defend luxury brands like their life depends on it. I don't get it. There are people that are like, no, but you don't understand, because by the time you account for, the marketing that goes into it and you account for the staff and the stores, they're basically barely making a profit. And I'm like, you must not work in the fashion industry, because if you think their profit margins are low, selling these pieces, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to you, to be honest. I don't know what to say. Like, the profit margins are insane. Just in case you didn't know, if you're watching this and you're one of those people, just in case you didn't know. So I don't know why people defend luxury brands like their life depends on it. Like, it's overpriced. The quality is shit. Move on. There's no need to defend the brand. What is what it is. Facts are facts. Bad quality, terribly made, cheaply made also, and it's overpriced. That's it. That's just the truth of the matter. There's no need to be like, no, but when you account for the shipping and the marketing that goes into marketing the products, and of course, all the other divisions of the brand, and when you think of how the fact they have to pay the staff in the stores and the rent, how much the rent costs, and the real estate, and how much when they serve champagne in the stores, and all these different things, and they spend so much money on the runway shows, and it's like, bro. It's like, bro, they pay for all those things and the profit margins are still high. Someone is saying it's because of consumerism. People love defending rich people. Is that a thing? That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, I don't have any particular hate towards anyone who's rich, or I don't really care. I don't have any issue just because someone has money. Like, who cares? But it's more companies I have an issue with, not even individuals. It's more the way companies operate. The fact that consumers don't really know what they are buying into. They spend all this money expecting quality and they don't get it. That's more my issue rather than individuals. Like, I don't have any issue with Kim Kardashian buying 10 Ferraris. Like, it's not, she's rich. She earns her money. She can spend, her money on whatever she wants. Like, I don't see any issue in that. There's more companies that I have an issue with. People saying I would start a revolution. I'm not famous enough to start any sort of revolution. If I was, an A-list celebrity, maybe I had the pull to tell people don't buy these brands because the quality is really terrible. That would get me blacklisted from fashion though. I find it strange to defend the brands that hard. Just buy your luxury fast fashion in peace. Damn. I wouldn't be surprised if some counterfeits cost more to produce than authentic pieces given economies of scale. That's a good point, and that I wouldn't be surprised either. That's a very good point. Some people just identify with their dream too much, thinking they'll become a billionaire. Oh, so is this going back to the conversation of people defending rich people? So you're saying that people are dreaming to be billionaires. So in the process of doing that, they defend rich people because they see themselves being in that position in the future. Interesting. Let's see. Marco says maybe because they are kind of perceived as family legacy owned companies. That's a good point, actually. Do you guys, I'm asking the chat this actually, but do you guys think that the average everyday luxury consumer knows that the luxury fashion industry is like a big machine? That they're all owned by massive conglomerates like Only the Brave or Kering or LVMH or Richemont? Like, do you think that the average everyday luxury consumer actually knows about these conglomerates? Or they just think that these brands operate as big family run businesses? I'm curious to see what you guys say. But it says, to be honest, I know so many people who are aspiring to be rich in the future while hating on currently rich people. Yeah, I don't I don't understand the hate towards rich people. Let's have this conversation because I'm not rich, but I don't know why there's so much hate towards rich people. So long as their wealth isn't gotten via ill means. If obviously it's blood money, then that's a different conversation. But if you're, I don't know, like a fashion designer and you made money that way because you're an employee of a fashion brand, or I don't know, like I don't know, there's so many ways to be rich, right? You run a business that genuinely creates a product that is valuable to people and useful. I don't see any issue with that person being rich and then buying a mansion if they want to. Like, power to that person. They worked hard for their money. I think the only time that becomes an issue is maybe if it's blood money or there's a lot of exploitation to get to that wealth, I guess, is the issue. But I don't know why there's sometimes just unnecessary hate towards rich people. Like, for no reason, just uncalled for. It's really strange. Okay, everyone is saying that they don't think the average luxury consumer knows about the conglomerates. Interesting. Consumer literacy is second grade level. Consumers have no clue about conglomerates. Damn, that's interesting. Because I can't really gauge. I'm so much in a fashion bubble where every quarter we're talking about the financial reports that it's hard to imagine a world in which people don't know that about these conglomerates, you know, in fashion and stuff. Do you feel that young people still care about fashion brands anymore? Or does it not matter to them anymore? I mean, it depends when you say young people who you mean. I'm Gen Z, and I think Gen Z definitely still cares about brands. They definitely do. I don't know about the generation below me, though. I don't know. Okay, this is interesting insight from Peachy. No, I thought they were all independent when I started learning more. Interesting. Someone said rich people are terrible people. I guess it depends. What is your idea of rich? Because like, even me personally, if I was to say what my financial goal is to be in a position where I don't have to stress about bills and stuff, and like I actually own a house. So that level of richness is not like being a billionaire. You don't need to be a billionaire to own one house. So long as I can like own my house and then not just be so stressed out about bills, that's my financial goal. But to me, that would be rich. Because living in London and being able to buy a house where the average house price is insane in London, you kind of have to be somewhat rich, at least like a millionaire or like close to You have to make at least, let's say, maybe 300k a year to get to a point where you just don't worry about money anymore, which to me is rich. To me, 300k a year is rich. And I don't think you have to kill people to make 300k a year. That's not the kind of wealth that, leads to blood money. So I think when you say rich people are terrible people, what kind of riches are we talking about? Are we talking about billionaires? Are we saying 100 million a year? Like where where does it end and where does it begin? Disco says, I believe people buy status symbols, otherwise they'd get things made custom. 100% facts, by the way. Very facts. Very much facts. To get stupid rich, you very likely fucked a whole bunch of people over. Oh, okay. So you guys are probably talking about extreme wealth, like billionaires. Because, yeah, you guys must be talking about like billionaires, probably. Interesting. That hate could come from the everyday livelihood problems plus political news. Yeah. There's a political conversation to be had, but I don't want to get into that. We'll keep this more to a fashion stream type of thing. Okay, so you guys are talking about billionaires. Okay, that's my fault, by the way, guys. When I think of rich from my lens. So from my lens, anyone that makes £300,000 a year or more to me is rich. So when I think of rich, I think of that. So when I'm like, why do rich people get so much hate? I'm thinking of like people that make 300k a year or like $1 million a year. I wasn't even thinking about billionaires. But yeah, if you're talking about billionaires, most billionaires, to accumulate that level of wealth, there is probably a lot of exploitation that happens along the way. But when I was saying rich people get hate, I'm more even talking about, like, I see celebrities get loads of hate for being rich. And these aren't billionaire celebrities. These are celebrities that maybe make a couple of million a year. But like, it seems like every single move they make or anything they do with their life is always policed. Or like in the news, you'll see a football player will buy a house. And there's so much critique around, in a cost of living crisis, football player buys £1 million house. And I'm like, he's a football player. He makes a lot of money. Why can't he buy a house with the money he rightfully earned playing football? What's the issue? So that's what I meant when I was like, I see a lot of rich people getting loads of hate. It's really odd. But yeah, if we're talking about billionaires, that's a completely different conversation. I think I did that thing in my mind where I think of what rich is from my perspective. Fendi Gucci says, none of my friends or family would know what caring was. Gen Z, is that the actual name or do we call them Gen Z in the UK? I only say Gen Z because most of my audience is American. Because if I say Gen Z, they're going to be like, Zed, here he comes again. It is not surprising how many people who are into fashion think that their products are made in atelier. Yeah, that's a shame. Because they're definitely, most of them aren't. Most of them just aren't. No, the average person doesn't know how many brands are owned by LVMH. They have no idea that LV has anything to do with Moet. Let me ask you only one thing. Okay, let me see. What the question is. Let's see. Let's see. Where's the question? Bored Black Sheep. How many brands does Nestle own? Oh, Nestle owns loads of brands. First of all, I only know this because Nestle has destroyed a lot of my home country, Nigeria. They do a lot of fuckery in Nigeria. So Nestle is like a big company in Nigeria and we talk about Nestle all the time. So for example, I know that like Nestle has its hands in like a lot of water companies. They also own a lot of like Nescafe, Espresso. What else do they own? I know the water companies, they own like loads. I know they even own like Buxton and things like that. What else do I know that Nestle owns? They own Milo, which is a big thing in Nigeria once again. Like massive beverage. They own Nesquik, Ovaltine, which is also big in Nigeria, probably big in other countries too. Yeah, all I know is Nestle is like an enormous company. They own loads of stuff, but I can't exactly tell you everything they own, but those are things that come to mind when I think of Nestle. Al says, I don't hate rich people, I hate capitalists. People who don't make anything but instead own things professionally. Can you expand on what you mean by that? I'm just curious, Al. Luke says, back to the fashion questions, please. Stop talking about rich people. How do fashion designers end up with similar looks causing a trend? Is it manufactured beforehand? Because it can't all be a coincidence, right? Yeah, so how it happens is a lot of brands use the same trend forecasting software. So because a lot of brands use a lot of the trend forecasting software, they kind of jump to the same conclusions. They kind of end up using similar colors because they talk to the same trend forecasters. So that's how brands end up designing similar things. That's why brands that are more unique don't use trend forecasting software and they're not on those platforms. Let's see. Someone said fashion is political. Fashion question: have you seen buyers make their decisions? Oh yeah, I've worked for luxury brands where I'm in the marketing team and there's a buying team and we have to work closely. So because the marketing team, basically we tell the buyers what's selling and what we're marketing and stuff, and buyers bear that in mind. So yeah, I've seen buyers make their decisions. A lot of it's not really about personal. Well, some of it is personal taste. I think buying has changed though as an industry. Before, when I first started in fashion, buying was a bit more personal taste. So you would have a buyer that was just like, this is what I like, this is what I think is cool, and they would buy that for a store, and that would be it. But I think now, because retail is dying, it's a lot harder, it's a more competitive industry, people are using stats more and more. So they're really looking at, okay, statistically, what sells in the store: black trousers, interesting sweaters, black boots. So they're looking for, okay, what black boots that I personally like, and that's where the personal taste comes in. But it's being informed by what's actually selling. Whereas I think in earlier times, buying wasn't really that analytical. It was more so what buyers liked and just trusting the taste of a buyer. But then those kind of stores don't last. If you think of stores like Colette, I'm a massive fan of Colette, and the buying in Colette was impeccable. Some of the best buying ever. One of my favorite stores to go to in Paris until it closed. But it didn't last because a lot of stuff in there wasn't selling because it was cool shit, but it wasn't analytical, so it wasn't really based on what was actually selling, and that's how you end up with a store that doesn't last too long. So it really just depends. Nectar Man said 300k sounds nice. After tax, 170, 190. One kid's tuition at a top school is 30 to 40k per term. 300k is not rich at all. Yeah, but I'm thinking of 300k as a single person with no kids that lives alone. 300k is, unless you're doing something very wrong, and that comes down to lifestyle inflation. I don't intend to have a very extravagant lifestyle, so I wouldn't need crazy amounts of money. I don't intend to have a private jet like that. Those aren't my personal goals. So when I think of my lifestyle and how I want to live my life, 300k after tax, 170k is outrageous amounts of money. That is actually outrageous. Like, what the hell are you doing with that much money? That is so outrageous to me. So yeah, obviously you can say, yeah, if you send your kid to Eton and it costs 40k per term, which obviously now you're living an extravagant lifestyle, then yes, 300k could very easily be seen as not a lot of money. But I think it just depends on the kind of lifestyle that you're trying to live and that sort of stuff. Like, if I made 300k, there's not much in my life that would change other than I would buy a fancy car, and that would be it. I wouldn't really buy more clothing because I already have a philosophy in which I buy clothes. I buy clothing once every few months. And most of the clothing I buy is secondhand anyway. That wouldn't change. Trying to think of how else I live my life. I live in my parents' house and I pay them rent. I wouldn't change that. So until I could like buy my own house outright, then I would move out. So there's nothing really in my life that would change. That's why to me 300k is like outrageous. But yeah, I see what you mean though. If you want to send your kids to Eton and you want to fly first class every flight, then very quickly it could be a lot. It could be, you know, not a lot of money. As a brand owner, how do I go about getting in stores? So the easiest way to do it is to find out the contacts of buyers, tell them about your clothing, and if you want to do one extra, have a showroom, especially in somewhere like Paris. So the quickest way to do it is, you know, organize whatever you can afford, kind of like a little showroom in Paris, because during Paris Fashion Week, everyone is in Paris for the most part. All the buyers are there, the journalists are there, all that sort of stuff. So you set up a showroom in Paris, you set appointments with buyers and you try to convince them to come to your showroom, and then you just pitch to them. That would be like the quickest and easiest way to get into stores. Because yeah, if buyers have time, if you are able to convince them enough, then they could come to your showroom and before you know it, they're buying your clothes. So it just depends. But that would be the easiest, quickest way to do it. It's not cheap, but, you know, you have to invest in your brand, I guess. Luke says Eton isn't even that good of a school. I don't know about all of that. Our politicians go to Eton. Not to say that our politicians are the smartest of the bunch, but I'm just saying that the elites of society go there. So I just use Eton as an example because it's really expensive to go there. Anyway, guys, any more fashion questions? I don't want to keep talking about money constantly. Of course, this is a more chill stream. The Sunday streams are chill. I can talk about anything. So I don't mind talking about money, but would like to, you know, talk about some fashion stuff too, guys. Luxury brands marketing mostly targets the middle and lower classes. Is the trade-off accessibility versus craftsmanship? Oh yeah, 100%. Because I do think that when a piece is more luxury, the craftsmanship can't be lackluster, because I think that customer segment won't allow it. Which is why every label of a brand that is seen as more luxe is actually really good quality, but the day-to-day ready-to-wear pieces are always terrible. Like, could you imagine having a very bad quality haute couture piece? Like, that would never happen. So yeah, I think the trade-off is like craftsmanship, because to make a lot of these things accessible and to churn them out in a way that these brands make a lot of profit, they have to produce them in a very fast fashion way. Someone said, please answer the Rick Owens question. I think I missed it. What was the Rick Owens question? What was that question? The Netchin man said, the point I was making was once your earnings go up, your bills do without you living like a millionaire. I know plenty 100,000-aires who don't feel rich at all, but get zero sympathy. No. I totally understand that, the Netchin man. What I'm saying is, I'm well aware of lifestyle creep and what that is. And I don't personally think that if I made that kind of money, my lifestyle would be that much more extravagant. Because, like, how could it be? Let me tell you how my days normally are. I wake up in the morning, I go for a run, I come back to my house and I do my emails. Then I make breakfast probably, and then I post on Twitter, I post on TikTok, I post on Instagram. Then I read 10 pages or 10 to 15 pages of a book. After that, I do like miscellaneous things. So like if I have things to do, like things to sort out, I do those things. I do chores around the house. Then now that I'm streaming close to daily, then I do stream research. Then I go to the gym, shower, then I hop on the stream, and after the stream, I go to bed. Or I'm on the Discord talking to people. Now, I can't see how making way more money would change my life operating in that way. I'm going to live in the same house. I'm going to ride my bike to the gym because it's a distance that I can cycle, and there are cycling lanes, so it doesn't make sense for me to not do that. And also I use cycling to the gym as a warm up. So buying a Ferrari it doesn't make sense because I'm still going to cycle there because I need to warm up on the way to the gym, and that's how I do it to make it more efficient. So that's not going to change. My bills aren't going to change because like I said, I'm going to live in my parents' house until I can afford to like move out properly and buy my own house. So that's not really going to change. I just don't see what about my life would really change. Like, I'm not just going to wake up and start driving a Lamborghini or something. So I think it depends on your personality and the kind of person you are. Some people aspire to own so many different, things, and that's why their lifestyle goes crazy, and that's why they feel like they don't have a lot of money. Me personally, I just cannot see what I would be spending money on if I made that kind of money. So all it would mean for me is just I don't have to worry about money as much anymore, which is what I want to achieve in the future. But yeah, I understand what you mean in terms of, as you earn, your bills go up and all that sort of stuff. But I'm just saying, me personally, I'm not that kind of person. How long until you think we start seeing all the empty jobs at the big houses get filled? I think it's only a matter of time, to be honest. This modern iteration of musical chairs that happens every once in a while, this is now, we're seeing another 5.0. I think everything is going to make sense in a while, soon. We're going to see who goes to Chanel, and we're going to see who goes to all the other brands. Margiela, when John Galliano leaves, we're going to see all of that within the next, let's say, 3 months. Do I have a top chat or live chat on? What do you mean by top chat? I don't know what you mean by that, Gwendol. So please indulge me. Yeah, when you're touching 180k net salary, you're doing fine. Rich is an ever relative term. Yeah, exactly. I ordain the life of a fashion influencer. Will I get the same opportunities or something even close to opportunities in CSM if I study in fashion in somewhere like Manchester? I think it depends. At the start, no, if I'm being very honest with you, but long term, yes. I think at the start, so this is any industry, by the way, it's not just fashion. When you are trying to get your foot into the door, going to the fancy school is very important. It's always really important. So going to CSM, people will look at your resume like, oh, you went to CSM. It will be a thing that will be considered more before going to school elsewhere. However, once you're experienced in the industry, it does not matter. Most of the jobs I've gotten, let's say over the past 3 years, no one cares where I went to school. Like, it wasn't even a factor. They didn't even ask me for proof of my degree, nor did they even ask me for like what my grades were, even though I got a first class degree, but no one asked me what my grades were or anything. Like, no one actually cares. You get to a stage in your career where it's just about, are you experienced? Who are your references? And do I know that you can do the job? And is there proof that you can? That's it. That's all that matters. So yeah, I think at a certain point it doesn't matter, but getting your foot in the door, yes, there's that CSM advantage for sure. Okay, so this is the Rick Owens question. Let's see. Someone else asked, if Rick Owens died, would the brand survive a new creative director? I think so. I definitely think so. I think that the Rick Owens design language is so strong that I think it's not that hard to continue it. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people could replicate Rick Owens' designs in a way. So no, I don't think anything would happen to the brand. I think it could survive. Let's see. There's this question that I want an answer. How did tight nylon-made Lululemon yoga suits become such an insane hype thing when actual traditional yoga clothing was like sari made with cotton and linen? Yeah, isn't yoga like an Asian thing? Like, I haven't necessarily looked at the history of yoga, but I do think it's an Asian thing, right, historically. And modern yoga is like an Indian thing, no? It could be. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I'm misspeaking. But I just think it's just sometimes for things to be big in the West, you need like a Western company that repackages it and, you know, makes it easy to understand for LA rich people. Like you just need that to happen for it to be big in the West. So I think that happens all the time, and yoga is just like one example of that with the Lululemon and all that stuff. But I think that happens a lot of times with many different things. Let's see. I think Rick has said that he would like someone to continue his brand when he's not in it anymore. Okay, I don't know. I didn't watch that interview. I'm not aware of that, but that's interesting. Interesting. Even when I get a bonus or raise, my lifestyle doesn't change at all because I put it all into retirement accounts. Yeah, I don't want to dwell on like saying the same thing over and over again, but yeah, it's just there's nothing about my life that would change if I made more money. I can't see any situation in which I could have some insane lifestyle creep. It's just, I can't see that ever happening. Oh, okay. When someone was asking about the top chats earlier. Yeah, so super chats. Yeah. So on my, from my dashboard, if you donate like via super chat or whatever, then yes, I will see it because it highlights your comment. So I guess that's what you mean by a top chat, because the comments always go to the top of the chat. But yes, I do have it. But yeah. The question is not when the seats get filled, it's how they get filled. Are they going to be filled like Pharrell, like Sabato? Oh yeah, facts. Facts. Chanel needs me, they don't even know it. Chanel needs a lot of people, actually. Wait, what was this referring to? A students work for the B students and the C students own the building. I mean, that's true. I can get into why that's the case, but that is definitely like a true thing. That's true. Guys are talking about if Yoji's brand can be continued if he passes. Interesting. I think it'll be harder to continue Yoji's brand than Rick for some reason. Do you think fashion brands will go for the better financially in the future? Go for the better financially in the future. Besides LVMH or Kering, I saw some brand sales are slowly declining. Oh yeah, like soon in the next stream when we talk about what's trending in fashion, we're going to go through the Kering report. But Kering's last report, every brand saw a double-digit downturn apart from, I think, Bottega. But that has something to do with like just Kering brands being downhill, but also the luxury market in general is down across the board. LVMH also saw bad financial performance. I don't think this is like a long-term thing. I think it's more of a short-term thing. We're still in a cost of living crisis. Like, don't forget. We're still in like an economic downturn. It just doesn't feel like it for some strange reason because it's not as bad as, let's say, 2008 or something, but we still are. Wait, why is someone telling me that India is in South Asia? When did I say India is not in Asia? Interesting. Literally, all of these brands have designs that can be easily produced by a talented and meticulous designer. Yeah, facts. Oh my God. So I have not seen this documentary, but I want to. Someone actually messaged me on Instagram and said that I should watch the documentary about Brandy Melville. I just haven't seen it yet, but I can imagine it's really, really good and really interesting. I've heard that it's very spicy, very, very spicy. But a lot of it I'm already aware. Like even, the fact that fast fashion is dumped in places like Ghana. I talk about this all the time. Let me show you guys a video where I talked about this, for example. Let me show you. I talked about this years ago. One second. Let me bring this up on the screen. So, okay, yeah. So I made this video once on Priya Alawadia, who is an Indian Nigerian fashion designer, but a lot of her work is inspired by, her heritage and stuff like that. And she did a whole project. Let me skip to that part in the video so you guys can see it visually. But she did a whole project talking about the fact that, Western countries kind of dump a lot of waste, like textile waste and old clothes, into places like Ghana, places like India. A lot of the stuff gets dumped too. This is, stuff that, so this is from the project, for example. It's this stuff. So this was part of her research. This is stuff that like is quite well known. I guess for me, it's very much well known because I work in the industry. So it's things that you talk about almost all the time. But yeah, it's interesting though that these conversations are still being had. And I think they need to be had because I think sometimes people don't actually consider how massive of an impact the clothing that they wear has on the environment and just on things in general, to be honest. Could you explain the Dion Lee thing of how they reached the financial bind they're in? Is the Jacquemus situation the same, and what are causing these financial problems with brands? So the Jacquemus one, I'm going to talk about that in a later video, so I won't spoil it. Now, the Dion Lee situation, I don't know. I can't tell you because I haven't looked into it properly. I know what's going on, but I haven't looked into it. So when I look into it, maybe in a later stream, if you ask me that question again, I'd have an answer for you. The Jacquemus one, I definitely know what the answer is, but I'm going to talk about that later. How can you learn the design aspects of fashion if you studied the business side and want to start your own brand? You just seek the information. In my case, because a lot of people think of me as like a journalist or a content creator, and that's what makes, like, people forget that my start in the industry, some of the first internships I did were more design roles. So I think when I talk about quality and garment construction, I think sometimes people might think I'm talking out my ass. But I think you just have to seek the knowledge. Just because you're in fashion business or that's what you study, it doesn't mean you can't go into a tailor's studio and be like, oh, can I shadow you every weekend just so I can learn about how garments are constructed and just learn about this stuff. Like, it's not very hard. You just have to put the time into learning about these things. That's all. That's really all it is. Let's see. Wanted to mention when I was just in Tokyo, I saw more Celine handbags on locals than I had seen in London or LA. Wondering if they will continue doing well in Japan now that Eddie is out. I mean, Japan in general, there's the luxury market in Japan is absolutely insane. If you guys are on the Patreon, you guys, when I was reading out how luxury lost its luster, you guys would know all the stats that we read about in that book. It's insane how important Japan is as a luxury market. Like there was a stat that almost every single Japanese adult has at least one luxury piece, like one piece from a luxury fashion brand, which is insane. Really, really insane. Let's see. Is it better to have a personal training for 3 years, for example, at Hugo, or study fashion in Germany? You can decide if you want to study or apply for 3 years of professional training. I mean, if you want to be a better designer, obviously the better option would be to just do professional training. The problem is, and this is more just an issue with the job market, is that you kind of have to play the game. You kind of have to do things the traditional way, in a sense. You kind of have to get the degree and then get the job that way, because for some reason, employers are so stupid that they would rather you have a piece of paper that is basically meaningless than them actually seeing if you can design or not, if you have the skills. So unfortunately, I would still advise that you actually study fashion in school and get the degree, because there are so many jobs where it's like minimum requirement, you have to have a degree, which literally really has no bearing on how good you are as a designer. The person who worked in Savile Row for 3 years is going to be better at construction than the person that studies fashion design in some school. But just the way the job market is, I don't make the rules, unfortunately. The people want to see you sketch a collection. Yeah, this was what the stat. 40% of the Japanese population own LV. Yeah, that was LV, but there was another stat that was about just luxury in general. It was like almost every single Japanese adult owns at least one product from a luxury fashion brand, which was insane. Absolutely insane. Let's see, I can study after that. That would work also. So I got both. But if you can do both, that is obviously the best option. You have the degree and you have the skills. That's always better. It just depends how much time you have. I apprenticed with a master tailor and was a fit model for 10 years. I already knew how to sew, so now I'm on my way. That's great. That's really, really great. I'm sure you learnt some really good insight. Learned some really important things. The Japanese secondhand market is popular enough where there's no gatekeeping anymore. I don't think it's been known for years. Oh, are people still trying to gatekeep the Japanese market? People like, oh, don't put them on to Bai. It's like Bai is not niche. Bai, everyone knows about Bai at this point. Like, it's not. Like, people know about the Yahoo Japan auctions. That is not niche. It's so funny when people try to gatekeep that. Like, no, bro, don't put them on the buy. I remember one time I told people that you can buy cheaper, like you can find really good deals on Ukes. And people are like, don't put them on Ukes, bro. And I'm like, Ukes is not even, it's not even as niche as you think. Ukes is really not as niche as you think. It's really not that niche. The IP banned Yahoo, so it's obscure again. I didn't even know they did that, to be fair. Zoe Hong just posted. Shout out to Zoe Hong, by the way. I'm a big fan of Zoe Hong. She just posted a haul including such a cool denim jacket. That's really cool. Where did she get the jacket from? I'll watch the video, of course, but, where did she get the jacket? I'm curious. What if I have lots of visions in my head about fashion, but I can't draw them onto a simple piece of paper? So, you don't have to draw to be a designer or even a good designer or whatever. I think you just need to have a way of visually representing your ideas, because ultimately, if you're trying to produce a piece of clothing, it can't just live in your head. At some point, you are going to have to explain to someone what you want, whether it's the person that works in a factory, the person that's going to make your tech packs, whether it's even you. So long as you have a way to visually represent that, it could be via drawing, it could be via a mood board type of thing, it could be via just designing something quick on InDesign or Photoshop. There are many different ways to, represent what's in your head. It doesn't have to only be a sketch or a drawing, but you do have to come up with a way to do that though, if you are trying to produce anything. Otherwise, the thing just exists in your head permanently. Your channel is really good. Lots of love. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. My favorite brand right now. I feel like my favorite brands, they change with the wind. I think it really just depends. And it's hard for me to answer this question also because I wear the same damn, like, I don't, anytime I buy brand, like, I have money to buy like a brand, which is rare. It's always going to be Rick Owens, Under Millimeter, Yoji, Y3, or Random Identities. So I guess I just have to say those brands because those are the brands that I buy the most, in a sense. Once upon a time, Ukes was a shit. I bought 4 pairs of Y3 for under $60. Damn. Yeah, you still find steals on Ukes here and there, but it's definitely not how it was before. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. Let's see. I'm trying to get my brand's graphic shirts into a small local boutique. It's something I'd like to continue doing while also working on my online presence. Is that a bad idea to get into stores? I think it just depends on you. I mean, if I had a brand, who knows? I might have a brand one day, who knows? But when I do have a brand, or if I have a brand or whatever, me personally, I just want to be direct to consumer. I don't really, and it becomes your goals once again. If I had a brand, I don't care about making a brand $1 billion brand. I'm not LVMH. So I don't mind everything being a small operation and everything being in-house and stuff like that. So for me personally, I want to be direct to consumer because when you're in stores, if you're a big company and you're a big brand, fine, it's favorable, it's in your favor. If you're a small brand, the way the deals look to stock in stores is horrible. The like sale return contracts, they are terrible. Which essentially, if you guys don't know what that means, when you're a new brand, they don't know if your stuff will sell. So they normally do things like, okay, we'll accept your clothing, but if it doesn't sell, then contractually we can sell it back to you for the same price. So just because you've sold it to the store doesn't actually mean you've sold it, because at any point in time, they can be like, well, it's not selling, so give us our money back. So it's just, so why would I want to stress myself with that? The only time I would ever stock in a store if I had a brand is if I had all the leverage and I was a big brand and everything was on my terms. So the terms were favorable to me. Otherwise, there's no reason why I would stock in a store, to be honest. The only other reason people stock in stores is, actually there's 2 other reasons. It's to achieve more visibility and branding, because the everyday customer, sometimes how they perceive your brand changes depending on where your brand is. So if your brand is stocked in Harrods and in Selfridges, there's a certain consumer that will start to see your brand as more luxury just because it's in those spaces. So that's one reason. And another reason is if you don't have any retail space or you don't have a showroom that people can visit, then it's a way for people to get familiar with your clothing and be able to have an outlet to try things on. So even though a lot of brands know, okay, these contracts aren't favorable in terms of if it doesn't sell, they're literally just going to get their money back, they see the positives in the branding that comes with stocking in certain places, and they see the positives in people being able to try the stuff on. Now, me personally, I still wouldn't care. I'm not doing that. Me personally, I'm not doing that. But then it's a bit different for me because I have an audience. So normally as a designer, the advice is normally build an audience first, because then you have an audience that understands what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do, and you don't have to start begging stores. So I think it just depends what your circumstances. But me personally, I wouldn't, especially as a new brand, stock in any store. That's just a recipe for disaster. This is also very true too, because sometimes as a newer brand, you don't have a lot of control over how your clothing is being presented in the store. So yeah, it's so many reasons I wouldn't. So many reasons I wouldn't. Let's see. Sapphire says, if I study, oh, okay, this is the same question I read the other time. My mum pulled up a picture of a bucket hat I drew when I was 2. Why could I instantly tell what it was? You had the talent. You were talented from 2 years old. That's crazy. I kept all my drawings in a giant yellow Pokemon folder. I dated all of them, and some of them are marked as old as 2005. Damn, that's crazy. I mean, drawing also isn't that difficult. Like, people act like sketching is difficult. It really isn't. You're not, becoming the next Picasso. That's not, when fashion designers sketch, it's very rough. Like, if you watch Karl Lagerfeld do a sketch, it's a very rough sketch. It's not, he's not showing those sketches and having auctions in Sotheby's for those sketches. That's not the case. It's just a visual representation of what your idea is. Could you explain economics to scale? And do you mean economies of scale? Do you mean economies of scale? And what it influences within fashion? Let me wait for that. Do you mean economies of scale? Do you think it's impossible to grow a brand without seeding product? No, you don't have to seed product to grow a brand. It helps, but you don't have to. I also think, once again, it depends on your audience. Like someone like Sanjeev, because I'm using Sanjeev as an example because he has a brand and he has an audience. Someone like Sanjeev is in a position where he has such a big audience, he doesn't need to give anyone product. Like he does, but he doesn't need to because he has his own audience already. If you're a brand that has no audience, then yes, you kind of do need to seed product, because how else are people going to see your clothing? Like, if we're being objective, if you don't have a big social media, so people aren't seeing your clothing on social media and people aren't finding about your clothing anywhere else, the only plausible way to get traction to your brand is to seed it to people that will talk about the brand. It's marketing, right? So I wouldn't say it's impossible. It just depends on the circumstance. Oh, okay. Economies of scale. Okay. Economies of scale. So, all right. Kind of a deep thing. I'll kind of just give a few examples based on stuff I've done in the industry. So let's start with factories and how factories work. So let me not say most, but let's say the typical factory, if you want to produce clothing, most factories will not allow you to produce less than 50. Some even, they'll say you can't produce less than 100 of a certain thing. And the reason why they say that is it needs to be worth their while to produce your clothing. Because if you're just going there and producing 5, it's not worth their while. It's not worth their time. So they kind of force you into producing a lot of garments that you wouldn't want to. Now, if I'm an individual like me, if I wanted to produce, I have absolutely no leverage. So I just have to produce 100 or do whatever. Now, if I'm LVMH and I go to the exact same factory, because I produce so many clothes, and every factory in the world obviously would know what LVMH is and they're aware. So by the time they see LVMH, they're first thinking, well, if I get into business with one of the LVMH brands, if we start producing Givenchy's clothing, that might lead to us producing Dior's clothing and more stuff. So already LVMH has so much leverage. So LVMH can be like, well, we just want to produce 10 of that piece. And the factory just has to be like, okay, we'll produce 10 because it's LVMH. And they're thinking long-term business-wise, we can make more money from LVMH in the long term. So we're just going to do what they say because LVMH has that kind of leverage. That no one has that kind of leverage as someone like me, like tiny little me with my tiny little brand. I don't have that leverage. So I end up spending more money to produce at every turn. I produce more clothing than I need to, so I might have clothing that doesn't sell and it ends up in TK Maxx, or I end up selling it for a discount, so I'm losing money there. LVMH doesn't need to do that. Then economies of scale becomes, if I produce 100 of, also, okay, this is something I forgot to mention also. So the more you produce of the same garment, the less each garment actually costs to produce at that same factory. So if I wanted to produce a specific denim jacket and I was to produce 100, let's say the cost per jacket is, random figure, £50. If I was to produce 10,000 of the same denim jacket, you could negotiate the factory that each jacket would then cost 40 to produce or 35 to produce. So you're actually spending less for each garment to produce. So that's where the economies of scale become. So when you see an independent brand, it costs them more money to produce something of the same quality as, let's say, a massive luxury brand, because of economies of scale, because the smaller brand will produce only 2,000, the big brand might produce 10,000. And that's in every industry. It's not just fashion. This is a big thing in perfume. So in perfumery, big companies like L'Oreal and Estee Lauder and all these kind of massive ass companies, they buy raw materials in bulk, like in huge quantities, massive quantities, because they use those raw materials for all the licensing deals they have, all the brands that they run. They can just use the raw materials across all their brands and all their companies. So it's so cheap to produce fragrances for a massive company like L'Oreal. Now, if I started a perfume line, the same raw materials might even cost 5 times as much, if not more, because I don't have that same leverage and the economies of scale. So it starts to affect every single aspect of the business. So going back to luxury brands being overpriced and luxury brands charging an arm and a leg, I tell people all the time, because some people will tell me that, yeah, but I have a brand and it costs me 1,000 to produce this jacket, so surely you're kind of saying that brands are earning more money than they are. And I'm like, do you not know that it costs the brand, if the brand was to make that same jacket, it would cost them less than 1,000? Like, how do you not know that? A lot of people don't know that because maybe they haven't worked in the framework of a luxury brand like I have in the past. So I've seen it happen. I've been there. I've seen it. I've been part of the teams. I've been in the warehouse. I've been in the factories. So a lot of people actually don't realize economies of scale and how important it is, and how much big companies and, massive conglomerates leverage economies of scale to improve their profit margins. I think it's so overlooked in fashion. So many people don't understand that this happens. And it's not, once again, it's not just the fashion thing. It happens in every industry. That's why I talked about the fragrance industry as well. It's same thing. So that's why if a perfumer, like an indie perfume house, has a really expensive perfume, I don't have an issue paying more money because I know it probably costs them way more to make. Whereas when a luxury brand does it, now I'm actually thinking of this cost, do I really want to pay that? Does it make sense? Did they use raw materials? What did they use? I start thinking about all these things because I know they have economies of scale in their favor. So if it's a conversation of how much it costs them to produce it, it can't be that much. It cannot be that much. Exactly. Like, it's cheaper to make 1,000 yardage of innovative fabrication instead of 100. 100%. 100%. By the way, I got intel that Tapestry will try to buy Burberry if they're not allowed to buy Michael Kors, Diesel and Co. Interesting. Hi, I'm learning more about the fashion world. Can you suggest me 3 documentaries or movies based on famous luxury fashion designers? The McQueen documentary is good. There's a documentary called Dries, which is about Dries Van Noten. That's also really good. A documentary that isn't really about a designer, but I think is good for people to watch, is The I Must Travel. That is a documentary on Diana Vreeland. That's kind of cool just to understand like the fashion media landscape and how that historically has aligned with the careers of designers, learning about Diana Vreeland. And I think she's just an important figure to learn about. There's so many fashion documentaries. Where do I even start? I mean, there's the Margiela documentary, there's Dior and I. It's a documentary that follows Ras Simmons when he was at Dior. I mean, there's the Supermodels documentary. Recently, people talked about the Brandy Melville documentary, which is good to learn about sustainability. Yeah, there's loads. People will recommend more in the chat too, I'm sure. There's a lot. Yeah, 100%. A lot of those materials are bought in bulk and less quality compared to underground affordable luxury brands. Yeah, 100%. Which is why, going back to the question that someone asked earlier about do younger generations care about labels? That's why I still think they care about labels, because if it was just a quality conversation, it definitely would be, people would go to the more low-key brands that make better quality garments that actually cost less, or they would get stuff custom made like someone mentioned earlier, because it's cheaper probably to get stuff custom made than the price of Bottega ready to wear. That's insane. Sometimes I've seen a Bottega ready to wear skirt for 23k before. So at that point you can just go to a fashion designer, buy the fabric yourself and be like, can you make this? I can assure you it'll be cheaper than 23k. Is it possible to get high quality productions in Italy for a small brand, like 500 pieces per order? 500 pieces is actually quite a lot. There are a lot of factories in Italy that will do less, like 100 pieces or 50. But I personally don't see, I know actually one factory that does less than 50 pieces per order, but it's rare. There are very few factories that will let you produce less than 50 per order. But most of them are around that 50 to 100 for a starting point, and then you can go from there. So it doesn't even have to be as much as 500. But yeah, there are a lot of high quality manufacturers in Italy that will do that for you. How do you get in contact with high quality manufacturers? It's not that hard, I think a lot of people make it, contacting factories or knowing which factories are good, they make it harder than it is. There are directories online of loads of different factories, and then you just have to do your research and see what they specialize in and kind of what you want. Because different factories specialize in different things. There'll be leather factories, knitwear factories, denim factories. And these factories might tell you, oh, we can do everything, but you probably don't want to do that. You want to go to the factories that specialize in a certain thing and produce that with that specific factory. So it really just depends, once again. Is that how some stock from brands end up at TK Maxx? Oh yeah, so to give you an example, I worked for a luxury brand one time, and our collection, one specific collection, didn't sell, and there was limited warehouse space. So because there was limited warehouse space, it was costing us, because this is also something I think people don't realize unless you work in fashion. Warehouse space is so expensive. Like, storage is so expensive. It costs brands so much money storing clothes, so much money. And also how much money it costs organizing things in a warehouse and keeping tabs on everything in a warehouse is really expensive too. So having excess clothes is actually really expensive, because once your warehouses are full, you either have to, put these clothes in TK Maxx and cut your losses and get rid of those clothes, or you have to invest in even more storage, which is so expensive that most brands are just like, no, that doesn't make financial sense. So that is how stuff ends up in TK Maxx. So in the case of this brand I worked at, the collection didn't sell. all our warehouses were full, so we didn't have anywhere to put these clothes. And if we were to invest in more storage, it would cost more money than the clothing even cost to produce. So it didn't make sense. So we decided as a team to cut our losses and to sell to TK Maxx for like insanely cheap prices. But it was, at least we can get some money, and it's a lot better than if we had to invest in more storage and more warehouse space. So it just made financial sense at the time in terms of what's the best bad option. And TK Maxx was the best bad option. So yeah, that is how stock from brands end up at TK Maxx. When stuff isn't selling and there's nowhere to put the clothing, and it could be more expensive to put these things in storage or whatever, or brands are just trying to get any kind of like quick money to start working on a new collection, those are normally the reasons why stock ends up in TK Maxx. TK Maxx comes in and they're like, we've got money for you. We can buy each piece at, $5 a piece. The amount of money that TK Maxx is such a good business model, by the way. It's the amount of money they buy these quote unquote expensive garments for, you would be so shocked. Like garments that, like, I feel like I'm unveiling the industry, but garments that literally retail for $400, $500, TJ Maxx will literally buy that shit for $5 and then sell it for like 90, 100. And then obviously consumers are like, oh my God, it's a bargain. We're saving $400, but TK Maxx is making a killing on those garments. They bought that stuff for pittance. Like that TK Maxx, business model is, I have to clap it up. That business model is fantastic. Vontae Brown says, yes, some people go with the names, but the great thing with Quiet Luxury is that people also see simple and starting to make their own twist with cheap quality brands. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Micah says, economies of scale should be simple to understand. Just think about the price of putting goods in a car. If I've only sold 40 pieces, still have to pay for an entire car for transport. Yeah, facts. A lot of brands have a whole separate tier of products they make explicitly for discount stores. Oh yeah, 100%. I've talked about this on Patreon. But for people that don't know, when you go to an outlet, so in the UK, one of the outlets is, there's an outlet in a place in the UK called Ashford in Kent. There's a really big, well-known outlet there. There's Ralph Lauren is there, a lot of other brands like Superdry and a few other brands. When you go there, the stuff that's produced in those like outlet stores are clothing that's specifically produced for outlets, and it's cheaper quality. You would even notice it. Like when you go to an outlet of a luxury brand, like compare those clothes to stuff that you see in the main stores. It's actually different, and it's made different. And this is something that has always been a thing, by the way. It's been a thing for forever, which is why I talked about it in a Patreon video, because it was in How Luxury Lost Its Luster. Dana Thomas was talking about it, but this is a well-known thing in fashion. But yeah, good to mention, because some people still might not know these things, and it's not, I obviously don't assume people know these things. I do, obviously, because I work in fashion, but that's not the case for most people. Let's see. A lot of brands are starting to give their scraps away along with unfinished products to a company that provide real cheap materials for new and low tier brands. Oh yeah. That's facts. Facts. Let's see. When brands agree to sell to retailers, do their contracts specify when and by how much the retailer can discount the items for? So, that's a good question. It depends. So I've seen contracts where, and actually, let me tell you how it normally goes. So if you're, and this goes back to leverage, if you're a new designer, you almost have no say, because you just kind of want to make money. So you kind of just sign your life away, and, brands can discount their products as they see fit. Now the ones where, the retailers can just discount whenever, however they like, I only see that for small brands. I never see that with big brands. Big brands always have things contractually that means that either You can only discount things that we discount, or you can't discount things at all, or you can't. It really then comes down to the specifics of what they sign. Not every contract is the same, for example, like it depends on the brand, but it just comes down to leverage. So the bigger brands, the brands that make more money, they have more leverage, and those are where you see, no, you can't discount unless we discount, that sort of stuff. But the small brands, they almost have no say. They honestly just have no say, which goes back to why I'm saying that if I had a brand, I wouldn't stock in a store until I had leverage, until my brand was like buzzing and, you know, buyers were begging me to stock my stuff in their store and stuff. Let's see. Then how do you differentiate what has or doesn't have quality? Like, just check every time. Is there no... Yeah, there's no golden... So a golden standard of quality does not exist because brands are fickle and brands all have different goals. So I just judge it on a case-by-case basis. I don't even think of it like, oh, this brand makes good quality stuff, this brand doesn't. Because even brands that we say have good quality, let's say The Row. The Row is known for having good quality, but there are still The Row pieces to me that I'm like, that quality is terrible. So it just depends on the product and it depends on the season. Even Hermes, everyone's like, Hermes. There's still some stuff that Hermes does that I'm like, if you were to go to the Tuscan region in Italy and get a custom leather bag made, it would be better quality than an Hermes bag. But because it's just marketing and branding, like Hermes is seen as like the gold standard of quality. It really isn't. There are so many low-key brands I think make things that are way better quality than Hermes, but it's just how it's perception. It's perception. So yeah, I wouldn't look at any brand as like gold standard every single time they make good quality things. You just have to judge it on a case-by-case basis. It just depends. Not all silk button downs are created equal. If you get me, materials only tell you so much about the garment and it's not much. Trial and error is my quality check. Yeah, I talked about this, of course, that there are so many different factors that determine the quality of a garment. So just because something is silk doesn't really mean much to me because, okay, then it becomes, how was it dyed? Was it damaged further in the dyeing process? How was it treated? Was it damaged further in the treating process? What's the thread count? There's so many different factors that will determine how good of a quality the garment is or the fabric. So it's not just because it's like, oh, but it's full silk, it's like great quality. Not really. Is it true the modern Chanel bags are going for a higher price and low quality? Oh yeah, that's 100% true. That's not even down for debate. So before 2008, Chanel flat bags used to be, it was like a metal plated with 24 karat gold. Post 2008, they started using like gold toned metals and stuff to cut costs. So all the hardware now has no real gold on it. So yeah, and not just the gold, that's like one thing. Even the construction, the quality of the leather is going downhill. So everything about the Chanel bags are going downhill. So yeah, it's the quality of the modern Chanel bags right now are quite terrible compared to in the past. That's why pre-Chanel bags are always in high demand. Like when you look at, there's a big secondhand market for pre-2008 Chanel bags. Like it's a big thing. Like people that are into bags will tell you. Let's see. Like I know one store where I really like their denim products, but their cut and sewn knits are hit or miss. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Post 2008, everything became silver tone brass, apparently. My mother's Chanel bags from the early 80s to 2000s have real gold hardware. Now apparently they use gold tone. Enough said. Yeah, facts. Like it wasn't, by the way, when I say they were using real gold, because I saw a comment alluding to this, they weren't using pure gold. That would be so expensive. It's just real gold plated, but it's like really good quality because it's really good gold. It's real gold on the bags. But now there just isn't any real gold. But it's not just the gold that we have to think about and the hardware. It's the actual everything about the bag. The stitching is worse. The leather is worse quality. The leather is less rigid. It frays easier. All these things, like it's the whole Chanel bag in general is just worse quality. It's not just the hardware. It's the whole thing from beginning to end. With silk, I learned there's mom count, which is weight count per area, but I don't know if it informs quality. So it does inform quality. It's just a factor. So this is how I can describe it. Essentially, if you have a silk fabric, one silk fabric might not have as high as a weighted count per area, but then it was treated so well, and it was dealt with so well in the dyeing process and every single process that by the end of it, you have a fabric that is better with a garment that, yes, it has a better weighted count per area, but they absolutely decimated it, destroyed it in heat during some of the treatment processes. Because people don't know, applying a lot of heat to a lot of fabrics damages it, but it's easier to like clean things and process things with a lot of heat. So like cheaper brands will just chuck everything in in the treatment process and like these like hot cauldrons and stuff when they wash it, and it damages the fabric and it causes fabrics to shrink and stuff. So it comes down to how they deal with it. So then you have to compare and contrast. So with fabrics, I'll just put it this way, with fabrics there are multiple different factors that determine the quality. So it could be the thread count, it could be the treatment, it could be the dyeing process, it could be many things. Obviously, the more of these factors that are favorable, the better quality the garment and the fabric will be. So just because something has a higher thread count doesn't automatically mean that it's sensational quality, because then they could have decimated it treating it. You know what I mean? So it really just depends. It really, really just depends. Would you ever make a series on how to tell quality of clothing from initial feel, look, and manufacturing, because you have a lot of knowledge? I'd love to learn more. Yeah, I'm working on it because this is starting to become the most requested thing on my channel. Like just to talk about the quality of clothes and stuff. But it would have to be so detailed. I'd have to probably like go to a factory and go through that whole, even down to the process of how things are treated so you guys can see it. Because I've seen these things like when I've worked for brands and we've gone to the factories where things are being produced. But yeah, I don't even know how possible it is if factories will let me film their process. Because I would want, the good factories would, because it's a good advert and they know that they're doing things the right way. So they would be like, yeah, come and film. But the bad factories, which I would want to film because you need to contrast, I would want to show you the difference between when you treat a garment badly versus when you treat it well. But the bad factories obviously wouldn't let me in. Because that's how fashion is. You only see the good, not the bad. Chanel bags are horrible. Plenty of YouTube channels of them cutting them up, and literally cheaper bags are better quality. And the older Chanel bags are made much better. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If brands can manage the quantity a factory makes, why do they end up destroying millions of dollars worth of product? So I think it's a misconception that luxury brands actually manage the quantity that a factory makes. They don't. Let me tell you how it goes. So a lot of factories, especially like for luxury brands, they have a certain capacity. So as brands expand, they only think of things in terms of capacity. And I'm not talking about like mid-level brands like I'm talking about really big brands. I'm talking like the Burberrys, the Gucci's, especially when it comes to luxury bags. They just think as we need to expand because this factory has 1,000 bags capacity per week. So we need to invest in another factory so that we can double it and have a capacity of 2,000 per week. These are the terms in which these brands think about these things. So they just produce whatever the capacity is, and then whatever happens. That's how these brands, they don't, I think people think that these brands actually care about sustainability. They don't care. They just produce what is possible for them to produce, and what happens. So they hope that all of it sells, and if it doesn't, the rest, they destroy it. That's why they destroy those things, because they aren't actually managing quantity. That's not what they're doing. They're just thinking of things in a output per 1,000 we can produce per factory. That's how these brands think about things. Have I heard of T. Michael? No, I haven't. Put me on. Who is T. Michael? Put me on. Educate me. How many products would you consider for the first drop / collection? So if I was to release a brand, which definitely isn't in the works anytime soon, but if I was, the first drop would maybe be like 6 products. Maybe like 6. Like 2 accessories and then 4 ready-to-wear pieces. Let's see. Exactly, this too, because like what you're allowed to say a fabric is, like even like, you know, different blends of silk and all those kind of things that people can still call silk. So not all silk is made the same. That's why I always tell people, when it comes to quality of fabrics, it's way more nuanced than anyone thinks. Like it's so much more nuanced than just, this is 100% cotton, so this is great. Like it's not, or there's some people that think because their cotton says it's a high count, like it's heavy, like, oh, it's like 200 GSM cotton, so it's really quality because the fabric is thick. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good quality. It just means the fabric is thick. That's what it means. Like, and why I'm mentioning that, let me expand on that point. Having a thick fabric doesn't necessarily mean that the fabric is better, because you can have a thick fabric all you want, but if it's dyed terribly, the dye is just going to wash off on all your clothes, on your thick high GSM cotton hoodie. The color is just going to run on all your clothes. It's going to stain everything that you sit on. It's going to shrink really easily if you put it in the dryer by mistake, or if you leave it out in heat for too long under the sun. And it's just going to get damaged so easily. It's going to start fraying. You're going to have, you know, those like annoying frays that happen with like really low quality garments when you wash them too often. They're going to have all those things. And then you'll have someone that has a very high quality cotton that's thinner and less heavy. So you would think that it's less robust because it's thinner and doesn't weigh as much. But because the garment is so good, like quality wise, it frays less. If it's dyed well, it doesn't stain everywhere that you walk. And it actually ends up lasting longer, and it doesn't have a hole in it before the garment that's thicker. You would think that the garment that is thicker wouldn't have a hole as quick because it's thicker, but that's not how it works. And that's what I try to explain to people. Like, garment quality is more than just feel how heavy it is. Like, it's great quality because it's so heavy. That doesn't mean it's going to be, you know, like really good quality. Aya has messed up my perception. I feel like it's just a shot in the dark when I buy clothes now. Would it be good or bad quality today? Oh my God, no. Still buy the clothes you love. I'm just answering questions that people ask me. I just feel like recently a lot of people have asked me questions around garment quality and stuff. So I'm just answering the questions I'm given. But I don't want to like make you just like overthink like, oh my God, is this good quality or not? Because to be honest, quality aside, certain brands or certain designers make certain silhouettes that you can't find anywhere. So even if it might not be the best quality in the world, you can't find that silhouette anywhere. So if that's a silhouette you love, if you like the shapes and the cuts that a certain designer uses, then just go with that designer. Even if you're going into it knowing that, okay, this isn't the perfect quality garment, but you're going there because there's a shape you like, there's a silhouette you like. So there are other factors to consider other than just I'm trying to get the highest quality piece. So I think it just depends. It always depends. It depends. It depends. This is also a good point. Best way to learn about quality is to sew clothes yourself and feel how it wears over time. Facts. Facts. I have always been astonished by how people consume high fashion like fast fashion and expect a high level of quality. Consumers are part of the problem. Yeah, of course. Of course. This is also a good resource. I'll just put this on the screen. In terms of like, fabric construction and stuff, if you guys are interested, definitely check them out. We love to shout out other people on our live streams. So yeah, definitely check them out. Let's see. Oh, my government name. O'Dwyer. Maybe you should chat with Shift Fashion Group about contacting UK factories or just discuss quality in a collab video. You know what? I'm going to take a picture. Let me take a picture of that. That's a good point. I'm going to do that. Let's see. Especially when consumers don't have any idea on quality or the manufacturing process, consumers buy these brands for the name and that's it now. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, they destroy them because of... it's mainly because of branding. They don't want their brand to seem cheap if it's too accessible. So if they have too much excess, they need to destroy it to control the market. That's the main reason why they destroy garments. And by the way, people think that people still don't destroy garments. They do, by the way. That we just need to wait for more scandals to come out. Don't think because we caught Coach and Burberry and stuff that other brands aren't doing it. These brands do not care about sustainability. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking they care. Do not let them gaslight you. Coach, to be fair, and I talked about this on my last Patreon video, they are doing more than any other luxury brand, so I can give Coach a pass. But any other brand, don't let them gaslight you into thinking that they care about sustainability. It's all a front. It's all a fad. They're destroying things behind the scenes. Trust me. What do you think Alexander McQueen would be doing if you're still alive? What direction would his brand have taken, considering what he was doing right before he died? Do you know what? I have this theory in my head that if Alexander McQueen was still alive, he wouldn't still be designing at his house and he would have quit fashion, because I don't think that the way he designs works for this era of fashion. Like the fact that your hero pieces have to be like hoodies and the McQueen sneakers and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if he would agree with that per se. Because McQueen was a purist in the way that a lot of when McQueen was at the house, they were making a huge loss and he was putting a lot of money into it. Obviously until they had big investment. So he clearly has that purist mindset of, I just want to design clothes for the art of it, rather than, trying to become a billionaire and caring about like making a huge profit and buying 50 mansions, even though he was still rich, but you know what I mean? So I have a feeling he would have quit like the Antwerp designers. He kind of would have just been tired of the whole fashion system and would have left fashion like Dries Van Noten, to be fair. So I don't think he would have lasted long. Let's see. Using the government name as Brazy. Let's see. Why did you leave the fashion industry apart from your social media presence? So I haven't actually left the fashion industry. I still work in fashion, just behind the scenes. It's just that because a lot of the work I do behind the scenes is behind the scenes. So it's not stuff I really talk about, because it's not marketing. They're not social media campaigns. So I just work with the team and do the job, and then that's it. So I still work in the industry. I just do social media as well. Actually, I'll put it this way. I don't actually make a livable wage from stuff that I do on social media. My livable wage comes from the stuff I do behind the scenes. Just to put it like plain and simple, basically. So I definitely still work in the industry. I certainly do not get the amount of views or the traction. I don't have the numbers that would allow me to make a livable wage from like Patreon and social media and stuff like that. That isn't the case right now. It might be in the future, hopefully one day, but I still very much work in the industry constantly. Even like, yeah, I still very much work in the industry. Okay, let's see. T. Michael is a Ghanaian Norwegian artist based in Bergen, the west coastal city of Norway. His creative work comprises of his eponymous label, Norwegian Rain, and the Tea Kimono. Oh, wow. I'm not aware, but I'm going to do some research after the stream. So I've just taken a picture on my phone. So thank you very much for bringing this to my attention. That's really interesting. I'm going to have a gander after the stream. How do you manage the balance between buying grails, things you look at and want to own, and practical clothing? I buy a mainline Kiko and it isn't very practical compared to like MM6. Boring. Yeah, I think it just comes down to how I'm feeling. So how I buy clothes is basically, I have a financial plan. And so in my financial plan, I have kind of what's called a clothing pot. So there's a very tiny percentage of all my money that I'm allowed to use to buy clothing, because it's however much money is in my clothing pot is how much money I'm allowed to buy in clothes. And so what happens is it takes so much time for money in that pot to accumulate that by the time the money in that pot is enough for me to buy clothes, I've thought about what I want for so long and what I need that I don't even think twice about what I buy, because I know exactly what I want. So sometimes that might be a plain overcoat, and sometimes that might be a very avant-garde statement piece. It really just depends how I'm feeling on the day. And I think that reflects how I dress, because some days I dress extremely basic. Like I look like I'm going to work out at the gym. And then some days I'm dressed really avant-garde, and then some days it's in the middle, and then some days it's really streetwear. It really depends. So for me, it just really depends on how I'm feeling and my mood, to be honest. And it also depends on the setting, because I need to have clothing that fits every setting. Going back to me working behind the scenes, so some of the jobs I do are quite corporate fashion facing, where you kind of have to dress a bit more corporate. And then all the other jobs are like more creative, where I can wear whatever. So it also depends, like a lot of what I wear or a lot of what I buy, I also think about the different settings that I'm in and how I'm going to dress in those specific settings. So, very important. Very important. If you could bring back one designer from the past to design one collection, who would it be? Martin Margiela. Only because I would like to see what Margiela would be in 2024. Like, what would that look like, considering the current landscape of fashion? Let's see. Oh, everyone's talking about McQueen. Damn. Damn. What are your thoughts on AI in fashion? So, I don't know what exactly you're talking about when you say AI in fashion, because obviously it's a broad concept. What I will say, though, is that a lot of the use cases of AI in fashion, they haven't been amazing. Like, when they do those AI runway shows, they just aren't that interesting to me. I don't find them interesting, but I think hopefully in the near future we'll have better applications to use AI in fashion. But for now, the only interesting things I've seen is I've seen AI used in these mirrors where you can change into different. So let's say a store has a product range of all different things in a store. They have these mirrors connected to AI that essentially you can change into different clothes and see how clothes look on your body without having to actually physically wear those clothes. That is a very interesting way to use AI, but most of the ways that they use them are just very uninteresting. It's just a very gimmicky, weird looking runway show. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing because it's AI. I think the novelty is more so that it's being done with AI versus it actually being anything interesting from a design standpoint. He said, the fuck is a financial plan? I just pray and hope. No, I have a financial plan. That's funny. I just pray and hope. That's funny. No, I have to, everything I buy, I have to be able to afford. I'm not in the business of putting myself in financial turmoil to buy things that aren't necessary, because I have enough clothes, so I don't need any more clothing. So if I'm going to buy more clothing, it doesn't make sense to buy clothing that's going to put me in a bad financial position. So when I do buy clothing, it's because I genuinely can afford it. I'm not going to put myself in credit card debt or do anything like very stupid just to buy clothes. That's not going to happen. So yeah, I very much budget everything in my life. Let's see. Did you see that Balenciaga Harry Potter? The first one is pretty funny. I know it's cringe. That's funny. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, yeah, I've seen it. Is what it is. Let me see if let me put it on the screen so you guys can see. Because I saw it on TikTok actually. With regards to clothing pot, I do the same. I put a certain amount aside per month and don't break that rule. And I only wear my nice designer stuff when I'm going out / weekends. Yeah, that's exactly what I do with the clothing stuff. Yeah, AI has that shallow wow factor to people who know barely anything about design. Damn. You're low-key right. It reads like a hot take, but Carolina, you're completely right. How do I make a financial plan? I'm going to ask ChatGPT for a step-by-step guide because I'm cooked. So I can only tell you what I do. I'm not a financial advisor. Please don't take my I don't know, comments with a grain of salt. I can just tell you what I do personally. So me personally, anytime money touches my hands, so anytime I get paid, I have certain percentages of things that I put my money into. So when I get paid, a certain percent of that money goes to an account for tax. Another percentage goes into what I've called my clothing pot, which is for clothes. Another percentage goes into what I call my travel pot, which is for like holidays and stuff and like traveling to different countries, or like when I go to different countries from work, if I want to buy something like a souvenir or whatever, there's that pot for that. There's a percentage that goes into investments. There's a percentage that goes into my living expenses. So I have a set amount of like things that I divide, and I make sure I stick to it. So I never dip into other pots or other accounts for things that they are not for. And I've over the years been able to like do it in a way that's sustainable. So that's how I manage my finances personally. But obviously everyone is different. Like, don't do whatever works for you. Not really Andy's strongest soldier if he doesn't put himself in credit card debt to buy the latest pair of her combat boots. You guys want me to be down bad for undoing the Maester boots. Easiest way: after bills, food, travel, necessities, and savings, half your remaining amount, and save it for nice things. Yeah, exactly. So that's one way of doing it, like an easier way, rather than me doing the whole like specific percentages things. Got to leave now. Definitely checking the VOD later. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And you know, your comments were greatly appreciated in the live. So I slowly have been combining my clothing budget with my travel budget, as I prefer buying my clothes overseas. And I also have been buying much less designer goods the last few years. Yeah, I'm the same. If I buy Arndemenimista retail, I'm always going to buy it in Belgium because it's way cheaper in Belgium. First of all, it's just cheaper in general. And then I also get like is it 30% tax back? So it becomes 30% off plus being cheaper than in the UK. So like I'm not buying Andy if it's not in Belgium. And Belgium is just a train away. So it doesn't make sense not to buy it from there, especially if I'm buying like a lot of stuff. So if I do a bulk Andy order, I'm going to Belgium. So yeah, depends. Traveling to certain countries is cheaper. A lot of people are traveling to Japan now because the yen is down. So you can buy stuff at basically cheaper prices in Japan than a lot of other places if you're coming with your pounds or your dollars. What are people talking about? Chanel. Yes, I miss Andy much as well. I still see her around, but I miss her in fashion, is my point. I stopped buying designer goods until I find something that's guaranteed to stay in my wardrobe for a minimum of 3 years. Yeah, exactly. Like, I genuinely can't remember the last time I sold one of my like garments that I own. Like, all of them, I buy them with the understanding that I'm going to keep them for years and years and years. So that's a good way to look at things, like things that you would want to wear for years and years. That's a good way to look at it. When is the Coquette Sandy Liang stuff gonna fade out? I'm so sick of seeing it. No depth. I guess it's just a matter of time before, you know, trends, they come and go. I think it's just a matter of time before the whole Coquette craze fizzles out, and then it's gonna come back in 5 to 10 years. I think just give it some time. But that's funny. What do you guys love about fashion? I love the wide array of subject and issues it can touch, and also it looks cool. I just like fashion because, me personally, and everyone in the chat, you can answer this too. I love fashion because fashion is so intrinsic to everyday life. It's so important, yet people think it's not important. Like, clothing changes the way people perceive you on the street. It changes the way people perceive you in business. It can signify where you are from. Like, fashion can do so many different things. And it's so interesting that simultaneously, even though everyone wears clothing for the most part, it's still seen as a very frivolous thing. I find that so interesting as a concept. It's so interesting. That's the thing about fashion that I find the most interesting, to be honest. I just think the way people make their personality around the aesthetic feels really brand. That I kind of see what you're saying. I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah, I said for the most part, because obviously there are some people in this world that don't have clothing to wear. That's why I said for the most part. Have to be accurate with these statements. You know what I mean? I was today years old when I found out that fashion schools give their students access to trend forecasting companies, which makes so much sense. Yeah, they do. Like WGSN and stuff. Yeah, they do. When a brand uses the Kardashians and Jenners in ads, I don't take them that serious and wonder why they are flopping. Fashion is intellectually and aesthetically satisfying for me. I will say that the Kardashians, they get a lot of strays, don't they? People really don't like the Jenners and the Kardashians. Like, it's just people aren't feeling them. Fair enough, I guess. I'm kind of indifferent about them. I do think that they are just... The Kardashians are just like branding for hire. They'll just wear anything that they get paid to wear. There's no personal style, no aesthetic, no nothing. So anything that the Kardashians are tied to, it just feels a bit vapid and meaningless. So I definitely see it from that perspective. So yeah. Oh yeah, that's that word that Luke said in the last stream, aesthete. I love fashion because I'm an aesthete and obsessed with good design. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Look at Luke improving my vocabulary one stream at a time. Look at that, Luke. LALC says it's better to buy in a country where the brand is from. Andy for good deals. Add sales season like buying Dries in Belgium or France doing sales. Yeah, and in Belgium they do those sample sales. I don't know if they still do them actually, but I used to go to them like years ago. Fashion is literally everything. Art, day-to-day life, design, impression. It's everything besides our character. 100% agree. I like fashion because dressing helps me control my own perception of myself, even if I can't control how other people perceive me. And I love any hobby with a long history to study the references. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I don't really care about the aesthetic. I don't really care about aesthetic. I just like the fantasy. That's really cool because obviously everyone likes and is into fashion for very different reasons. So it's always interesting to see the different reasons that people have for loving fashion, being a fashion victim. I love fashion because it tells so much about people, but also from a creative point of view, it's such a 360 thing. From clothes to stores to music to art, it's a whole environment. 100%. Is there a difference in quality between American fashion schools like Parsons or FIT and EU schools like CSM? I can't really speak on this because, yes, I went to CSM, but I don't know what going to school at Parsons or FIT is like. So I have no comparison, so I can't tell you. I know that, what I do know is that at CSM is more about the creative, like just being a creative and creative ideas and honing creative ideas. Whereas my understanding is that in American schools, there is more of a commercial aspect to the way that they make designers think about things. So when you're at CSM, there's almost like not much of a consideration of, you know, building an actual sustainable business and clothing that would sell. Whereas in American schools, it seems like there is a focus on like doing things that are more commercial and building a more cohesive brand that actually works as a business. So I think it depends what you're trying to get out of a school, but I can't really tell you which one's better quality or not because I haven't studied at an American fashion school. I don't know. I'd have to compare experiences with someone who went to FIT or Parsons or something. Let's see, I think the frivolity perception can also be blamed to the great male renunciation, where British utilitarianism took over and then the corpse got desecrated by American Protestant Puritans. Yeah, exactly, which is a big reason why... It's a big reason why... Oh, dropped my bottle of water. It's a big reason why a lot of frivolity that's associated with fashion, like even just caring about fashion is seen as, that's what women do. Like societally, that's still seen as, oh, caring about fashion, you must be gay or a woman, because no real man would care about fashion. That's something that's reserved, that kind of frivolous thing, and caring about the way you look and like how you dress in that sense and wearing extravagant things is something that should only be reserved for women. It's such a backward way of thinking, but that was kind of like where that started, and that's kind of what started that crap, basically. Interesting. That's interesting. I am a Parsons student. Was curious about CSM. Yeah, I just think they have different philosophies of the way that they teach their students and kind of the projects that they work on and stuff. I just think it's a different philosophy. You would have to decide what you prefer or what you as a person, what you're trying to get out of it. It just depends. And Nick says, this is exactly why I'm going to make my portfolio creative and crazy. But the moment I arrive at fashion school, do a complete 180 and troll my tutors with really chic formal wear. That's funny. What comment are you talking about? This channel has helped me in my understanding of fashion so much because how the heck did I understand that comment with no context? Wait, what comment was it? I'm just curious. Glad to see we're being informative in these streams. Glad to know. Good to know. Good to know. Let's see. American schools gets you to work at an American brand. We see the state of American fashion. The best names are showing in Europe. Oh, about the great male renunciation. Oh, yeah. Because we've talked about it in the past. We touch on it a lot of times, especially when we talk about things like the effects that the French Revolution had on fashion. I've touched on that too. So, yeah, if you follow the streams, these are conversations that start to become recurring and we start to see these themes. Let me actually Google great male renunciation and see what comes up. See what Google says. Let's see on Wikipedia, which obviously isn't the best source of information, but let's just run with it. The Great Male Renunciation is the historical phenomenon at the end of the 18th century in which wealthy Western men stopped using bright colours, elaborate shapes, and variety in their dress, which were left to women's clothing, like I said. Instead, men concentrated on minute differences of cut and the quality of the plain cloth. So, yeah, obviously you can look deeper into it. Of course, like they said, part of it is to do with the French Revolution, which I just mentioned, which we've touched on a million times. So yeah, if you follow the streams, these start to become things that are very, day-to-day concepts that we talk about all the time. We talk about this stuff all the time, guys. Rustin has lost his Calvin job dealing with the flop Kardashian. Damn, not the Kardashian strays again. Do you think the restraint of being commercial in fashion design can also be an avenue to innovate? Oh, 100%. I think that a lot of innovation comes from restriction. Definitely. I definitely think there is. But that has to come from a designer that truly cares. But I definitely think that in the box of being commercial, because you have to sell, because that's the reality of having a fashion business, there is a lot of innovation that can happen there, even within that. Let's see. Boa says, fashion was seen as frivolous before the Great Male Renunciation because it was already considered a mostly feminine subject. Yeah, exactly. I think what the Great Male Renunciation did was it just put a nail in the coffin, which is why... It's why, even though obviously homophobia is like a horrible thing to do and it's so terrible that this stuff still happens, it's why when I dress a certain way and then people just like, they're not even trying to be mean, they're like, I might say something about, like, let's say at the time I have a girlfriend and I'll be like, they'll be like, oh, what are you going to do after? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to see my girlfriend. And of course we haven't had any conversation about sexuality. And they're like, oh my God, you have a girlfriend? I just assumed you were gay. And I was like, why do you assume that? They're like, well, because you wear skirts and like you wear all this like frivolous clothing. I just would have thought, because people just do it. It's just, I feel like it's embedded into the psyche of people now, where it's just, you just associate caring about fashion as feminine. That's just what people do in society. Obviously not people in fashion. That's more like general society, that those are the people that do that. So yeah, I think the Great Male Renunciation, it kind of just nail in a coffin type of vibes. This is also true. Anything related to self-care is seen as feminine, like perfumery, skincare, self-care. It's so weird. Because as a man, like, why wouldn't you want to have good skin? Like, why would you be like, good skin? That's feminine. Like, why do you want to have shit skin? Or like, why do you want to smell bad? Caring about perfumes, that's for women. That's so dumb. That's so stupid. Smelling like smelling like engine oil and like I'm masculine because I smell like cars. Like, yeah. So strange. So strange. Exactly, yeah, it's weird. Like, why wouldn't you want to have good hygiene as a dude? I know, it's just weird because I'm a guy and I'm masculine. I don't care about my skin. So odd. The world is a funny place, I swear. I think it's this toxically masculine image everyone has of men. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. It happens in every industry associated with women. Nurses, education. Yeah, it's stupid, but I know I see that it happens. Like, I get that it happens. It's stupid though. I wish that as a human race we could just get past backward ways of thinking like that. But, you know, one day. We can only hope. One day. But yeah, guys, this was really fun. I've almost been on live for 3 hours, so this stream shall now be coming to an end. Of course, like I said, if you guys want to stay up to date with the future streams and know what's going on and at what time I'll be streaming, you can check the stream schedule on Twitch. So without further ado, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys probably on Tuesday. So yeah, thank you very much to all of you for tuning in.